Do I need the microphone? Are you guys hear me okay like this, or? Oh, you're recording. Okay. Gosh, I have a teacher voice. That's why. So if I need to yell, I can do that. So I just wanted to welcome everybody here to the reverse pitch session. Much unlike what many of my founders that I see in the room have to do, we said, let's just kind of invert that pyramid for everybody. And as a quick little background, so I was working with my colleague Alejandra Molina, who's in the back, and has so elegantly worked through several days worth of investor programming. It's a commitment for us as a team to be able to deliver back value not only to our investors but also to our founders and find a purposeful and effective way to be able to create this hook that connects everybody. And without going through all of the different things that we've done in different events, I think the most important piece of what we've been able to achieve is the worldwide aspect of this work. Whether it's been in the Middle East, in the United States, in Africa, in Europe, etc. The commitment is pretty clear always from us to you. We want to make these connections hoping that it's purposeful. So today what we're doing is something a little bit different. And we have fantastic startups that are in the room. Some of them you'll see pitching tomorrow. Others have traveled in from Latin America, for a showcase opportunity for networking, because we have some great investors here in the audience that are also going to present their funds to you. And our goal here is to be able to have them, give them their 5-6 minutes of time in order to be able to showcase that opportunity so that later on, whether it's today, tomorrow, toward the conclusion on Thursday, can you make a connection? Can things work? Will GEC plus Puerto Rico be maybe kickstarting a long-term relationship with one of these investors? And that was my quick little brief, not too ranty introduction. I would like to welcome to the stage first to be able to kick off our reverse pitch session, David Olivencia from Angeles Investors. And you can please, definitely give him a round of applause to kick us off. Thank you. I'll get your deck. Clicker's up here.
Okay,
yes,
cool.
sir.
All right. While he's getting the deck ready, so a little bit about me. All my family's from Puerto Rico, so it's good to be back. Born and raised in the United States. Senior technology executive. Companies like Oracle, Ford Motor Company, Verizon, SoftTech, Accenture. And then got exposed to venture when I got my MBA at Notre Dame, startups. Because I knew all this great things that were happening with startups and technology, but I didn't know how to get in the game. So I've been in angel investing in startups for the last 14 years. I've invested in about 80 startups. I have 3 unicorns in my portfolio. I have 10 that are over 100 million in valuation. I have 12 or so that are no longer with us, so you learn just as much from the ones where you lose money than you do the ones that are successful. And over the last 4 or 5 years, a group created this organization called Angeles. And Angeles' mission is to find, fund, and grow the most promising Hispanic and Latino startups based in the United States. Our angel investing group, there's 2 ways we're doing that. We have an angel investing group. It's now one of the largest and fastest growing angel investing groups in America, maybe the world. And then we also have a fund, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our fund. Good? Okay, thank you. So a little bit about me and the fund. Live right outside of Chicago. My wife's from Colombia. Anybody from Colombia in here? No? Oh, bastante Colombian. Good stuff. All right. So mention. So we find bold founders, underrepresented Latino based in the U.S. We have a machine that finds these great startups. We fund them. I talked about my track record. I also have a general partner, Colombiana, by the way, and she also helps in terms of funding them and giving them capital. And then we help them grow. So we have this amazing network of angel investors, 400 or so. I'm trying to figure out the right way to do this. I'm not even right. 400 or so that can help them grow, right? So we use the power of our networks to make that happen. A lot of us, maybe if you look at the United States and the growth of the Latino population in the United States. It's growing faster than any other demographic. If you look at the amount of firms that are growing 10x the rate, if you look at, they're growing 6 times faster, and in about 2050 or so, about 30% of the population, which I think is low. I actually think it's going to be higher than that. So immense opportunity for growth of the Latino community in the United States, but we receive so little funding. But we believe that there's a huge opportunity to invest and get a great return on investment there. So mention a little bit about my background, some of the companies I work with, Angel Investing All-Step. Adela Cepeda, she's the other general partner that we have at Analyst Investors. For those who are familiar with Bloomberg Linea, she was named the 100 most powerful Latinos in the world through them. On the board of BMO Bank, which is in the continent. It's the number 5 bank in the continent. Very well educated and an amazing track record as an angel investor as well. Our third vice president, VP, is Francisco Mariscal, worked at Citi Ventures, Chileño. I don't know any Chileños in the audience, but he's a Chileño. And worked at Citi Ventures and a Kellogg MBA. So great leader, great team that we have here to find, fund, and grow these amazing startups. So I talked about, so we've built out Analyst Investors, the angel investing group, and now we recently launched the fund. And the fund, we're focused on seed stage, based in the US, B2B, B2C, tech-enabled, that are looking to disrupt various industries. So we're industry agnostic, although we have a preference for media, fintech, logistics, and B2C. But these are a couple of our track record of investments on the ventures side. I mentioned this, we like Hispanic and Latino ventures, we're like the seed area, and we want to really help them catalyze. So in our investment amounts, our average, for our fund, we're going to invest about $500,000 in each of startups. We can go up to $1 million, but that's what we invest in. And then we mentioned the B2B, the B2C focus, where we can also look at these startups, leverage our network to help them grow 30x. So where's our fund at? So it's roughly a $30 million fund. We're still in the process of closing, but we had one of the top banks in America is an investor, or what they call a limited partner in our fund, in Bank of America. And I saw like an earlier slide, somebody might be here from Storybook, right? With this. Oh, they're pitching tomorrow. Okay, great. Who's pitching from Storybook? Francisco. Oh, I definitely have to reach out to Francisco. So Storybook, Francisco Cornejo from Ecuador, by the way, and number 1 parenting app in 90 countries. We've invested in them. They're going to have a major announcement. You'll hear them tomorrow, doing really well. Linker Finance. So in the United States, there's commercial banking. So all these, not commercial banking, community banking. So they're disrupting and providing technology platform for community banks. They just today closed on a term sheet for roughly a 2x markup in terms of valuation. Certiverse is disrupting with artificial intelligence the testing and certification space. And then Sigo Seguros, they're doing insurance for immigrants right now in Texas, but they're going to be expanding to other states, California, Illinois, Florida, Arizona. They have a star there. They also received roughly a 2x markup on their valuation in less than a year. So we're industrial grade with Bank of America. Our fund has invested in 4 companies. We're looking at a 5th one. It's a Chilean startup in the AI space. We'll see if we make that happen. But on one side, we're industrial grade. On the other side, our fund is performing. And that's it. I don't know if there's time for questions, or was that enough? Or to the end. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so let's kick it up again. So at least everybody's awake now, right? No need for coffee after that. Okay, good. So coming all the way from Miami, Florida, very dear friend and the lady that needs absolutely no introduction, Silvina Moschini with Unicorn Hunters.
Gracias, amigo. Si quieres, ya mismo, comenzamos con el video. Hola a todos, muchísimas gracias. Súper emocionada de estar aquí acompañándolos. Vamos a comenzar con el video, así pueden tener una idea. ¿En inglés o en español? Sorry. In English. Sorry. So, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here again in Puerto Rico. We will start with the video so you have a better idea of what we do. So we tell a story with images, and then we share a little bit more about what we do at Unicorn Hunters.
Are you in the mood to join our hunt for unicorns? Then you are in the right place. A new hunting season is about to start. We will give you an opportunity to evaluate the leaders of carefully selected emerging growth companies.
One technology to solve all the problems of climate change all over the planet.
What I'm holding here has the potential to help save 10 million lives.
Hello, Unicorn Hunters. My name is Tom Albert, and I can see the future.
Unicorn Hunters is an innovative business show that created a new genre, enrichtainment.
I feel like we're listening to the Elon Musk of medicine.
Stop right there, because otherwise you are going to end up in too good to be true type of category.
Our show can make you rich.
Our signed clients are preparing to launch, have over 10 million end users in the United States alone, and we're just getting started.
You decide if you want to bet on their success.
Nick, if you're Superman, I'm glad I wore my cape today. I'm in.
The only consideration was, why aren't you already a unicorn?
Unicorn Hunter.
The Unicorn Hunters.
Unicorn Hunters is looking for that next
Billion-dollar business.
In addition to massive funding, the presenting companies compete to win a jackpot of 10 million unicorns.
Wow.
Potentially a $400 million value.
I believe in you, and I need you to have some unicorns to get you to the next level. So I'm a yes.
With billions of dollars in sales, Unicoin has experienced a 4,900% growth since its unveiling in 2021 and is well positioned to become the leading cryptocurrency.
So it's game time. Who's with me?
I kind of love this womankind world domination thing going on.
Unicorn Hunter is wealth creation democratized.
Can investors make money on this? That's the reason that this show exists.
Let the hunt begin.
Well, as you can see, we are a different kind of fund. We build a company because I'm an entrepreneur and I raise money using Regulation D and C through global crowdfinancing. This is an instrument that was brought to the United States by President Obama. And we created a methodology to raise money for ourselves doing global crowd at a scale. And we saw an opportunity to make this possible for other entrepreneurs from around the world to raise money using the same approach that we took. But we took it to the next level by creating a Hollywood show. And when I say a Hollywood show, this is actually a show done in Hollywood, produced by Craig Plestis, who is the executive producer of The Masked Singer, who is the #1 reality show in the world for the last 4 years. And we combine this show that allows us to offer the entrepreneurs the opportunity to reach audiences at a global scale. We have a distribution with over 400 million potential viewers through different channels, including streaming platforms, Open TV, On-Air Entertainment, and many different partners, including Clarín, El Colombiano, Expansión, and other media around the world. And our goal is just to take it to the next level, to build a platform that connects the dots for entrepreneurs with the market so they can raise money, but they can also ask for partners, they can also ask for talent, they can also connect with the opportunities and the visibility that they need to take their companies to the next level. So what is different from our platform is that we are like a Shark Tank on steroids. And we say a Shark Tank on steroids because when you look at Shark Tank, it's a table with rich people becoming rich and playing that they are investors in companies that are not necessarily investable. We select companies from all over the world. We recruit the entrepreneurs that are the unpolished diamonds that are like just there to shine, and they are ready to scale their businesses. And we invite them to join our platform so they can pitch to the global audience. We facilitate investment opportunities and visibility for entrepreneurs in biotech, health tech, sport tech, climate tech, in e-commerce. Now we are adding longevity, specifically as one of the verticals that we are very interested, and also ad tech, fintech, and Web3. And we are doing this because we want to align our efforts that we are bringing to the market to support the global development goals. We combine a platform that allows for people from around the world to invest in these startups. So it's not only us, we do all the due diligence, we work with partners, including Google for Entrepreneurs, Microsoft Israel Innovation Hub, Impulsa, Ruta N, Corfo, you name it, many different partners to access the deal flow and collaborate with them in the selection of the companies that are going to be presented to the world. And it's the people, the normal people from all over the world that can tap onto this talent and invest them and become their partners and help them scale. So we are doing all of this to disrupt the way that access to capital is today. As an entrepreneur, I have to tap into this because it was, as a woman founder, quite challenging for me to get access to capital. Only 2.1% of the venture capitalist money goes to female-led companies. So I created this as a founder for other founders. And we are planning now to launch the next season. As you could see, we have a star team of partners in the Circle of Money, which are like the similar version, our version of the Shark, that includes Steve Wozniak, representing technology and creators, people that represent public policy. We have Rosie Rios, former Treasurer of the United States. You've probably seen Rosie if you have seen any of the dollar currency, because she signed 75% of the dollar currency in circulation. Mo Vela, former Vice President, former Chief of Administration of Vice President Biden, when he was vice president, and also Al Gore. And we have celebrities and subject matter experts, and we also have, of course, VCs, private equity experts that join us to see the money paths. And of course, I am the chair of the Unicorn Hunters there and looking for the talent on the entrepreneur. I look at the eyes on the entrepreneurs to see if they have what it takes to build $1 billion businesses. If you are interested in joining us and allow other people to join us in the hunt, please let me know, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Silvina. We're going to transition to our next speaker, so just bear with us as we flip through our decks. Okay, so up next we have Mr. David P. Mullings coming from Blue Maho Capital. Everybody please give it up for Mr. Mullings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The clicker is up here, correct? How is everybody feeling other than cold in this room? All right. I regret not wearing my jacket. I am Jamaican. This is a little too cold for me. But thank you very much for having me here. Full disclosure, you are not my primary target market. So this is not a presentation actually trying to get you to invest. Because I tell all the founders that talk to me, or all the CEOs in particular that pitch us, is that you need to know your audience and focus on your primary target market. But I accepted the opportunity to come here because I thought it would be fun to explain what we're doing and how we've been doing it. And hopefully someone in this room learns from that. So for us, we want to focus on unlocking what I call diaspora capital or diaspora direct investment. Most of us know about foreign direct investment. And the problem with that is that capital goes into Malaysia, for example, doesn't actually know the region, and when things turn south, that's the first money that leaves those countries, and we have something like the Asian financial crisis. So let's focus on getting capital from elsewhere. So I have to put this up because we do have a SEC qualified offering out, and there's a camera, so you guys know the usual full disclosure that has to be there, forward-looking statements, and so forth. Most important thing I want to start with is the 3 things you should be looking for when you're looking to invest in a region or an industry. So number 1, perception must be different from reality. Number 2, a lack of equity capital flowing into that region or that industry. So when equity capital is not flowing in, it means that there's probably debt capital. When you bring equity capital, your capital gets hugged and loved and treated very special. It also means that you have lower multiples because there's less money competing against you. Important. And then lastly, inefficiencies must be present. You can't make a lot of money in a market that's already efficient. The Caribbean, certainly, and Latin America checks all three boxes, especially that last one. I'm sure we know that. So we look at the Caribbean, we want to say, why are we invested in the Caribbean? Well, the four Asian tigers, industrialization, massive investment in infrastructure, increased urbanization, people make more money, they need to build houses, they need somewhere to live. And of course, we increase per capita incomes. As GDPs grow, per capita income grows. And of course, there's going to be scalability. We talk about nearshoring. I shouldn't have to explain that to anybody in here. We're sitting in Puerto Rico. We're talking about Mexico, Colombia, elsewhere. And of course, capital friendly. How easy is it to get the US dollars out of the country? It's easy to get US dollars into any country. Can be hard to get it out. We care a lot about that. And then lastly is the democratization of wealth. If you think about India, Singapore, Ireland, a lot of the companies, and we think Latin America, they were owned by families. Most companies are owned by families, and they're private. They're not available on the market. Well, India 20 years ago, Asia 25, 30 years ago, they started listing those companies on stock exchanges and allowing regular people, especially the new middle class, to invest in those companies. Governments started to divest and sell things and privatize. So the same thing is happening now in the Caribbean. That's why we should be paying attention. 3.3 billion US dollars per year I sent by just Jamaicans outside the country back into Jamaica. So 2.8 million population, 3 million Jamaicans live outside, US, UK, Canada being the three largest. Guyana is 4 billion being sent back. To put this in perspective, Jamaica generates 4.4 billion US dollars per year in tourism, but less than 50% of it stays in the island. So only $1.8 billion actually stays in Jamaica, 60% leaves. So me, as a diaspora Jamaican overseas, more of our money stays in that country. So we went and pitched a company, a group of people, and said, hey, I just want to get 0.1% of that number for the whole Caribbean to create one business that can invest in the region. And they said to me, oh, you need to think bigger. You're thinking too small. I said, oh, I've never had anybody say that. Should I be going for 1%? And he said, no. I'll explain what he told us to do. So over 3 million people want to invest in the region, whatever problem. And this doesn't apply just to Jamaica or the Caribbean. This is any developing market. So it could be Brazil, Botswana, Malaysia. When we leave, we don't trust the government. It doesn't matter which political party is in power. There's a trust deficit. We do not want to buy a diaspora bond, like what Israel does, so the government can invest our money. It has to be private sector led. And number two, the government has proven poor at managing business. I think a lot of us can relate to that. We don't know who to trust, who to do business with, who not to do business with. Typically, it's cumbersome to open an investment account, to get exposure to investments in the region. Of course, we run on island time. And we know that's a real problem unless we're on a vacation. And then lastly, most of the people outside the country are not accredited investors. We do well as immigrants, but we're usually not in the 1%, not the majority. So I felt that the solution was pretty simple. And I presented this at the Jamaica Stock Exchange Investment Conference 10 years ago. Number one, private sector led. We don't want the government involved. Number two, should be run by someone from the diaspora who goes back to the region more often than those who've left and have not been back for a while. They need to know who to do business with, who not to do business with, how things really run in that industry, and then, of course, how the diaspora know things differently. We're not smarter, we're not better than those who stayed back at home. We have a different outlook, different exposure. Number three, partner with financial institutions known and trusted outside the region. We need to be avoiding Bernie Madoff and Alan Stanford and these guys. We just have to keep it real. Number four, domicile in the US, Canada, or UK. I love the fact that in the Caribbean, for example, mainly former British colonies, so we have British-based legal systems, very good court systems, but they run on island time, and we need efficient court systems. So we need it outside. This is why most investors invest in Delaware C Corps. Most people invest through the US. And lastly, has to be open to retail investors, average person, the person that can invest $100, not just $100,000. So this means that the options that people can invest through are really not that big. So we have hedge funds. I used to work for one. Private equity funds. I used to work for one. VC funds, raise money from one. Mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, ETFs, or a holding company like Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Obviously, a hedge fund doesn't allow non-accredited investors. Private equity fund doesn't allow accredited investors. VC fund doesn't allow accredited investors. So we looked at building a Berkshire Hathaway for the Caribbean. Let's give people access. Two problems. Nobody can do a mutual fund or an ETF invested in the Caribbean at all. There's no custodian. So nobody in the world can do a Fortec fund in the United States to give you access. Even though Jamaica had the best performing stock exchange in the whole world for 5 years, according to Bloomberg, at the end of 2018. So in 2019, they announced best performing exchange in the world. Vietnam is second. USA is third. Oh, but there is no mutual fund or hedge fund to give retail investors access to this fast-growing region. And then they called me because I'm the only person in the world working on it, and they put me on TV in January 2020 to explain what we're doing. So we're building a holding company. Literally looks like Berkshire Hathaway for the Caribbean. It's permanent capital. And we can take it public. So we built the holding company. It's a Delaware C Corp, invested in public companies, private companies, going to do some private equity, real estate, and private credit. So 4 asset classes. We are not early stage investors. We're not here to take a ton of risk. I'm a Warren Buffett disciple since 2001. Keeping it simple. Focus on a few good companies domiciled in strong long-term growth industries run by capable management. We will be listed on NASDAQ later this year via direct listing. We've gotten our first qualification with the Reg CF. We'll do a Reg A next and a mini IPO. We've had a ticker symbol reserve for 3 years, and these are the companies we've partnered with in the Caribbean. So Cygnus Credit Investments is the largest private credit firm here in the Caribbean. They actually bought a firm here in Puerto Rico. Cygnus has a real estate finance vehicle. Both of these are publicly listed in Jamaica. We invested in Cygnus Credit Investments IPO. It was the first one we did in Jamaica. NCB Capital Markets is the largest investment bank in the region. JN Fund Managers is also another fund manager. JN Bank is where I used to work. I used to design mortgages, investment products, and saving products for them. Sprint Financial Services is a microfinance company. We own 19.5% of that's going public in Jamaica in about 2 years. And then, of course, the Jamaica Stock Exchange. We're one of the largest investors in your junior stock exchange. And then NASDAQ is helping us with the listing. So initially, we did a Reg CF, $5 million, $10 per share into an SPV. That was qualified in May this year. It's the first ever Reg CF qualified for an entity raising from a diaspora to invest back into the Caribbean. Nobody has a vehicle available to retail investors to invest in the Caribbean. And so phase A, 3A as we call it, I sat down with one person and he said, what if Blackstone owned Berkshire? You need a vehicle. Who is a Geico? He said, build an asset management business. So we're building that. So we do $5 million in the Reg CF, $10 a share, it's $500 minimum investment. And then we can generate solicit in all 50 states, run ads on Instagram, Facebook, and we can target very quickly. And then, of course, we're going to provide a transparent vehicle that's regulated and audited and liquid for investors for the first time in history, and nobody can do a mutual fund or ETF to compete with us. 3B, we're going to do a Reg A for a max of $75 million, same $10 a share. We drop it to a $100 minimum investment, and we then qualify to list on NASDAQ. We'll have the 300 shareholders, the $5 million minimum in stockholders' equity, and we will list that on NASDAQ by the end of this year. And here's where the catch was. So the guy that said I was thinking too small simply said, we have a LATAM and Caribbean fund right now that's publicly traded that has no exposure to the Caribbean because nothing down there is publicly traded in the US. No coverage. We don't know the companies. We don't know the culture. You know the companies. You know the culture. You probably went to high school with some of the CEOs. I said, yes, 4 of them. Same damn thing. And you're getting board seats, yes, on 5 of the 20 companies that we own shares in. And we'll become the 10th largest shareholder or higher in all 20. And he says, well, we would put 1% of our fund into your stock when you go public. We can't invest before you go public. But that's $3 million. And we're one fund under one asset manager. They have 60 billion of AUM. He says, we put 3 million in. You just need to get listed. Every fund, every pension fund, every endowment fund, every hedge fund, every exchange traded fund that wants exposure to the Caribbean and can't get it has to buy your stock because you're the only game in town. Just get listed. So we just call NASDAQ. How do we get listed? And then I sit down with one person. So this is a group that we're working with to go public. Maxim Group, Dwayne Morris has 53 offices, Cone Resnick, all brand name people. Most importantly is this person. Spoke to one guy. Michael Leachin is the richest black man in Canada. He's a Jamaican. Mike is worth $2 billion. He's one of only 15 black billionaires in the world. Built his asset management business studying Warren Buffett. And so Mike agreed to become our main advisor and said, we will help you build the asset management business. He owns the largest bank in the Caribbean, competes with Bank of Nova Scotia. And that is who we're working with to build this. So that's a lot of stuff about my background and Mike's background, $3 billion companies that he's built, and one of only 15 black billionaires in the world. So that is what Blue Mohawk Capital is building, and I look forward to you guys following our story and being inspired with what we're doing. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So thank you so much, David, for your presentation and for joining us. I know we were running from another session, but yeah, I am part of the GEN team, and I run the GEN Invest programs. So I wanted to share a little bit about that with you. We run 3 programs. One of them is the Small Business Grants Fund, and that's how we also support entrepreneurs through grants. And we do this as like a way of support the ecosystem through philanthropic giving, as well as like making sure that these businesses can thrive and grow. Another program that we have is the Equitable Access Program, and that one includes giving access to credit-challenged entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurs that don't have a high credit score, who don't really have a lot of financial education, and we help them with providing them secure credit cards. And so the last program, it's the Global Business Angel Network. So I know that you guys are here, like you want to learn more. We have our members too from our Business Angel Association. So now I'm going to pass it to Carlos. We're going to introduce Carlos Varadelo, and he is the co-founder of Alaya Capital. So I just want to warm welcome to Carlos.
Well, this is a hard show to follow because I have no video to introduce myself. I have no slides. So I have to rely entirely on my ability of storytelling that we have heard is an important skill to have. So let me tell you briefly a little bit about myself and then about Alaya and what do we do. So I was born in Argentina out of Italian parents, and I emigrated without plan emigrating from Argentina. I was a victim of a scholarship, so I got one to go to the Netherlands, got my master, and then I got another one to get my PhD in computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon, and that was it. Then I set roots to live outside Argentina, and I moved later into my life. The first part of my life is kind of boring because it was in the corporate life. So I joined, the largest telecommunication company. You can figure out the names, and I spent most of the time in the East Coast and living in Europe. So I live in Italy. That was a lot of fun. I live in Belgium. That was less fun. I didn't see the sun pretty much all the time I was there. And then close to the 2000, I moved to the West Coast. And this was kind of crazy because by then we have 4 kids. I was way into my career. And I said to my wife, we're going to move to the West Coast and join a startup. And he said, you should have done that 20 years ago, not now, that you have responsibilities. And I said, well, we are doing it anyway. And I have to tell you, the key motivation. One day I read the news that he was the angel investor, that he was one of the very first investors into Google. And then I said, what I'm doing, working in the corporate ladder. So I moved to the West Coast. And the first company, I tried never to mention it because it folded. And I have to hear, I told you so, from my wife, infinite number of times. And what are we going to do now? And I said, well, you say in Spanish, estamos en el baile, hay que bailar. So I say, I'm going to join another startup, which actually was a home run, and we brought it public. But that was the second part of my life that bring me to Alaska. So I'm based in the West Coast, and I have friends in Córdoba. I always kept very close link. I guess if you're from Córdoba, you never leave Córdoba, or Córdoba never leaves you. When I speak in Spanish, I only say hello, and they recognize my accent. So, which is very unique if you know the Córdoba accent. So my friends in Córdoba said, well, a couple of us went to Israel, and we got a religion in terms of a startup. This was 2009, 2010. And the Israelis have been telling us how to create this fund. So why we don't create a fund? And I said, yeah, okay, why we don't do it? The story is much longer because one of the things that they heard in Israel was the leverage funds. And the leverage fund is that the government give you a leverage. Sometimes the leverage is factor 1, 2, or 3. So for every dollar that you raise from the private market, they give you whatever is the leverage factor in public funds. And then the public funds is debt. So once you make the multiples really leverage because you only return as debt the public money, and then all the upside go to the private. So that was the promise. Now, Argentinian governments are well known for never keeping the promises because we did all the work, and the promise from the government was never fulfilled. So here we are trying to raise $2 million we did on private money, which was a tremendous challenge because we didn't have any track record. And we were the first in the countryside of Argentina, outside Buenos Aires, okay? So the only way that we can persuade other investors to put is for us to take a significant piece of the fund, of the private money fund. And we did, okay? About 25% of the money was our own money, and the rest came from. So now we find ourselves without the government leverage, but we have done all the hard work. And it was pioneer work because nobody in Córdoba knew how to, you go to a legal firm and you say, I'm going to do a venture capital firm. And I said, what? They have never done that. Anyhow, it was a lot of sweat and a lot of connectivity. And also nobody paid attention to us because the fund was too small. And on top, there was not enough knowledge, and the people who have knowledge were in New York or somewhere else that have fees that were outrageous, at least for us. So anyhow, we did it, and we called that, as we look back, our MVP. It was our minimum viable product, and we made, as you can imagine, many mistakes. It was a very telling experience because of two things that I would like to share. A, we were, in some ways, I had some knowledge about the venture capital world because I have participated in one as a not as a direct participant, but very closely associated, that was in the Latino community, in the Latin market of the United States. So I have been able to watch from very close the whole fund structure and how the fund work, but this is in Silicon Valley. It was very clear that if I have translated all those documents, which I did have access to Spanish, we would have failed. And we would have failed for two reasons. Not because it was wrong, because at the end we have normalized into that type of documentation, but for two reasons. A, there was a lack of local education. And second, there is not in substance, but the way that you conduct and do business. I have lived too many years outside that I have maybe lost a little bit. So the local adaptation was essential for us to get that initial fund. We also made two additional mistakes. A, the type of company we invested. We look at companies that were local, and we look at companies that were in industries that we knew, and that was good, but it was not necessarily the high growth sectors. Let me fast forward. We just closed our third fund. The first fund, we didn't lose money. We make 30%, maybe a little bit more return to our investor. Not great for venture capital, but at least it was a learning experience. The second fund is we are now in the closing phase, was created in 2016. So if you do the math, it's 7 plus 3 1-year extension. So we are now in the clock, in the rundown to finish. And it's a very stressful time because we have to show the financial return. The results on papers look great, but they are not the returns. And we have now scaled our fund to be all over the Spanish-speaking Latin America. So we have presence in not only in the investors, but we have people in the ground in Mexico, in Peru, in Chile, in Argentina, and we have more people joining us in the future. So if you want to know more about Alaja, happy to answer any questions. I presume there will be a Q&A, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And up next, we'd like to welcome Jose Garcia Herz, representing Winnipeg Ventures. Give it up for Mr. Jose. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I don't have a video. I promise I have one next time. That was an exciting one. And okay, I want to concentrate on why in Winnipeg, our fund, the fund we're closing in the next few months, is a sector fund. It's an EdTech and Future of Work fund. And I first want to explain why we have specialized, and there are several reasons for that. One of them is education is one of the least disrupted industries in the world. Okay, it's a very conservative industry. Universities are, after the armed forces and religious institutions, probably the oldest institution in the world. It's the armed forces, armies, and then you have, of course, religious, the churches, and then you have universities. And they haven't been disrupted for centuries. They're beginning to get disrupted, and they're very scared right now. They're going through financial problems in the US, and now that's expanding to other places. People and students are not going to college as much as they used to. The diplomas are getting less worth, are having less value in general. So there's huge disruption waiting to happen. Sorry. And that will follow with AI. That will follow into the regular K-12, and then you have a completely blue ocean, which is workforce development that did not exist before. And now people are getting educated. People that never got education or instruction or got it very lightly are now have a need to be educated. Nearshoring in Mexico is an example of things and that need. I heard a speech from the governor of Nuevo León, and as he was speaking, he said, nearshoring, we have a couple of problems in Monterrey. We need physical infrastructure, we need more water, we need better roads in general, but we also have a human problem. We don't have the skills to employ as many skilled employees that we will need for that segment. So there are many reasons why I think there are great opportunities, which we think and are convinced that will translate into financial returns. And that was one of the things, and as a VC, that's what we owe our LPs. So that's one thing. The second is we like to use the word, and I have heard it many times, impact, in terms of this is good for the world. This is good for society to have more educated people. And the technology right now allows us to do that. And even, okay, we'll talk about AI and how AI facilitates the generation of content right now. But I think the biggest disruptor right now, especially for workforce, as I told, is the mobile. The mobile is the technology, which allows us to get to way more people than we used to just 20 years ago. So there's huge impact. So that we have impact, we have returns that can make us. And the third is, I just love education. Okay, it's a passion for me. When I talk to EdTech and future of work entrepreneurs, I can speak for hours. I can speak. I mean, it takes. Sorry about if you have entrepreneurs from other sectors, which I think are very exciting as well. I love fintech. I've been in the financial services sector for 30 years. So I do love fintech as well. But I get way excited, way more excited when I talk with an entrepreneur that's focused on education and the future of work. So that's the whole story of why I'm standing here, and that's why we invest in EdTech. The fund that we're closing will invest in seed stage or extraordinary pre-seed. Okay, we will have a budget allocated for pre-seed, but it will need to be very good companies where we will diversify part of our portfolio there. Most of our portfolio we expect to put in seed and follow on until Series A. And because we feel there's a need, a lot of the EdTech entrepreneurs complain that investors in general don't understand it, and I get it, because business models are tough, development is tough. It's normally a larger horizon, and that's a story that I need to tell my LPs as well. I mean, I try to be very transparent in terms of what we do for our LPs, but I think there's a need, there's a market gap, I think there's something that we need to do. So that's in terms of what we can offer to our entrepreneurs and the impact that we want to do. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to mount up our last slide and introduce our speaker in one moment. Okay, so last but certainly not least, I'd like to call up Israel Munoz from Latitude Ventures. Everybody please give it up for Israel.
Hello? Okay, cool. So like the other speakers before me, I also don't have slides, and I also don't have video. And I found out that I was speaking here like 5 minutes before the event, so like I just dove in head first. But I will probably, touch on three things. First, a little bit about my story and my background. Second, what is Latitude Ventures? And then third, as a reverse pitch, towards founders, right? Why I think you should probably take our money. So touching on the first thing, my personal background. Born and raised in Southside Chicago. My parents are immigrants from Jalisco, Mexico. Came to the US kind of fighting for the American dream. I was able to go to New York City for college, studied economics, and right after graduation was able to become a Fulbright scholar And unlike other Fulbright scholarships where you go abroad to teach English or do research towards a PhD, what I was able to do was do a program called the Binational Business Program, which is in Mexico. And it's essentially a Fulbright program that was created after NAFTA passed to help strengthen economic relationships, the economic relationship between the US and Mexico. So what ended up happening is I worked at a tech startup called Linio, which for those of you who know the Latin American tech ecosystem, Linio was one of the first catalysts. It wasn't a massive success for investors. The company was essentially a marketplace touching on a consumer-focused marketplace focused on electronics, beauty and wellness, household goods, things like that. The company was not a great returns provider for investors, but what it did do was create a huge catalyst for talent within the Mexican tech ecosystem. A lot of the early people at Linio who became executives at the company, after it got acquired, eventually started their own startup, which had a compounding effect and helped develop the tech ecosystem in Latin America. So I worked there right after college, returned to Chicago. I wanted to having a finance and economics background, I wanted to learn more about VC, kind of dove in head first. What I did was two things. I worked at the Illinois Treasurer, which put me in the position of being an LP into venture funds, private equity funds, and so forth. What I also did by night, and you also saw David Olivencia out here, I worked at Angeles. So that was kind of like the side hustle. Did those side by side for about a year and a half, and eventually moved to Silicon Valley to work at a fund called Acrew Capital. Acrew Capital was founded in 2019. Within 2 years, became $1 billion fund, multi-stage strategy focused on the US, and I helped expand our investments into Latin America as well. During my time there, focused primarily on fintech and consumer investing, and made a couple of investments into companies like Clara, Deuna, Spot2, and a few others mostly in the Mexican tech ecosystem. And then as of 2 months ago, I joined Latitude Ventures as a vice president. So Latitude Ventures is a $100 million venture fund. We are primarily focused on US-based Latino founders. We write checks of $1 to $3 million, industry agnostic, but mostly focused on software companies. And as a reverse pitch, for those of you who are founders in the room, I think there's probably 3 reasons why you should hopefully get investment from us. The first is the passion that we bring. As a Latino, I've seen the statistics. I know that we get less than 3% of all venture capital investment, and so I want to help change that. Second is the scale that we bring. We invest from pre-seed to Series A. So what that means is that we can be your first check as a pre-seed investor, follow on in the seed stage, and follow on in the Series A, and we could lead any of those rounds. So we're able to grow with you and also introduce you to other key investors in that growth process. And then the third part is the value add that we bring. So our team and our partners have been startup founders and operators, as well as CEO of large publicly traded companies. And what that means is that we've been in the trenches with as startup operators. We know what it's like to be in your shoes. We know what it's like to raise capital. And on the other hand, being among the Fortune 500 as CEOs and as board directors, we have a very extensive network. And in the 2 months that I've been there, I've already seen it in action. We introduced one of our fintech companies to the CEO of Western Union to help them explore a B2B partnership. So that's it's a little bit about Latitude. And if you have any questions, just find me.
So here's a bit of my shameless ask for all of our investors. If I could ask you to please go back on stage, everybody, so that we can now just get a couple of questions up and running. Founders first, if y'all have anything that you'd like to be able to ask anybody that has pitched and presented today. I'll make this cue very easy. Raise your hand, I'll walk over with the mic, and then I'm gonna go over here to Dr. Bhatia first, coming from New Jersey.
Thanks, Carlos. Pleasure to hear you all. My name is Himanshu. I'm the founder of Recover Healthcare. My question to you is, as a founder, right, we have to play this delicate balance of course, looking for capital, but also trying to assess, I don't know what the right word is, but the competence of the fund, of the VCs, right? As I think someone was saying, right, you try and, help your founding companies kind of go way, further than just the capital. So really my question is, how should a founder kind of assess this from the fund side? What do you suggest, right? Should a founder be kind of looking at, or how can we kind of make sure that it's not just a check that's being written for us, and how do we kind of make sure that the fund really has the capability of kind of taking us beyond just a check?
Yeah, I think maybe I can take a stab at that. I think two things matter there. One is specialization. We're industry agnostic, but we do have what I would call core areas of competence. And the other element of that is whether the investors are thesis driven. And I think that's particularly important. And what that means to be thesis driven, and a thesis driven investor is that, we are, say, curious about a thematic area. We've done our homework. We understand the pain points that exist within a certain market opportunity. We know who the players are. We know what the weaknesses are of the incumbents. And so we then look for companies, we look for startups that are solving problems within those spaces. So for instance, we just did a thesis project on nearshoring so that we can understand what is happening within nearshoring from a market opportunity, who are the stakeholders, and then what are the problems that they experience so that we can then find startups solving in those spaces. And what that means for you as a founder is that we've done our homework, we understand the problem that you're solving for, and so we are more aligned with you as opposed to an investor who doesn't really understand the space that you're in, has to get educated before making an investment, and then might not be able to add as much value to you. And then track record, right? Like, have we invested in your industry? Do we know people where we can add relevant value?
This is our time, guys. Entrepreneurs making the hard questions. Yeah. So during these days, I had been meeting, especially here, amazing entrepreneurs with amazing companies, especially because we are having profitable companies now. Not just ideas, not just smoke. We already have companies with traction, right? And this is a big value on these days. Thanks to that, a lot of investors to companies like us approach to us, so we have the opportunity to select which is the investor that we want to go on, right? On the negotiation, on the everything. And my question is this: what is the value that you, as a venture fund, offer to the entrepreneurs, saying that you are not taking advantage from them? Because most of the time we consider that you are you want our shares, you want to take advantage, you want to I know more than you, and probably some funds cheat entrepreneurs. So what is the value you give to us in order that all the relationship from the beginning be in an honest way, in the right path, in a balanced way in terms of legal procedures and everything, in order to know that we are with the right investor?
Well, I think it's the same answer to the prior question. You have to do due diligence on us. We do due diligence on you. And you should check our references. And if somebody you think that they have an abusive or an unfair type of treatment, this is not one day date. This is a marriage for the next 5-7 years. And if it doesn't work out, it's going to be horrible for both of us. Yes. So the best thing is do the due diligence on us, ask other founders where we have invested, and ask the people out there. Talk to everybody, talk to our limited partners, which are our clients. And I think you should have a pretty good picture of who we are.
Hi, I'm Anu Bardwaj. I'm the founder of Sheconomy. It's the world's first and only podcast listening app powered by the voices of women on both smartphones and dumb phones. And we are focusing the bottom billion. And we've already got a collaboration going with Reliant Jio in India. And we built on low-cost mobile devices, TVs, laptops, and phones, smartphones that are $30 and less. My question is, I have not raised a single dollar of capital. We've gotten $1 million in non-dilutive capital so far to build all of our devices. Tech is built, profitable from day one, 5,000 podcasts in 50 languages already completed. So as we go to market, I need to find a lead investor. That's the tricky part, because people want to come in, but they keep saying, like, I can invest, but you have to find a lead first. So how would you go about selecting this lead? Should it be more of a founder who's had an exit, or should it be institutional, or what advice would you give?
There are investors that have lead, that want to lead rounds, and there are investors that don't want to lead rounds. So the first thing you need to do is who has that willingness to really lead a round. Even between investment funds, some of them are followers, some of them are leaders. So first thing, if you need that lead investor, is find somebody who actually wants to lead. Okay, first. Second, and that sort of answers your question too, find that investor startup fit or investor company fit. I mean, you need to find who really will understand you in terms of the sector, in terms of what your mission, what your purpose is. That is very, very important. So I would look. That can be a founder, that can be a super angel, or that can be some institutional money. The thing is, if you really want to go, and I acknowledge, if you really then want to go public afterwards, for example, probably institutional investor is better than an angel or a person or another founder. So I would really encourage you to look for an institutional investor, probably in a large market where you plan to have your IPO afterwards, for example. So I mean, I don't know if that's your strategy, but I'm just at the end, it's the startup investor fit that you need to find. And a quick answer to all three of you: it's all about people. Mm-hmm. So you need to have personal chemistry with the people that manage the funds. The fund is an institution, or it has a name: Alaya, Winnipeg, Latitude, Unicorn. I mean, we all have those names, but at the end, it's about people.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's a very quick question, very quick answer. If you had been organically growing and profitable for day one, why do you need an investor? Unless you have a plan to grow by a factor of 100. You may want to continue growing organically and save the headache of somebody watching you behind your shoulder all the time. Okay?
We're in a new market. That's the short answer. We're in a new market, and you need somebody who understands the market. Period.
Okay.
All right, so some of them on this stage might not like my answer. I'm not a VC. You don't need them. You don't need a lead investor to bring VCs to the table. You can use regulation crowdfunding and do a Reg A or a Reg CF. The Indian diaspora is one of the largest diasporas in the entire world. Agreed. You need somebody that knows how to actually execute this side of it in terms of the securities laws and pull it off. So let's talk, and I guarantee I can bring you 2 Indian investors for you right now. One of them is my best friend that plays ball with me, and I sit on the advisory board for one Indian company right now that graduated from an accelerator with me in Berlin. So let's make it happen. If you look at Blackstone, they partner with Bumble, woman-owned company, dating app, and they just came in as a growth equity partner, no other capital, and then helped take it public. Like 3 years later, they invested at a $1 billion market cap, and they took it public at a $4 billion market cap. One partner. Execute. There are other ways to do it.
Yeah, and also you can access grant. You are on the women empowerment space. There are plenty of grants that are equity free that you can explore as well.
Ooh, that was very exciting. Okay, so we're gonna one more question. Okay,
Gonna close out with Oscar.
Wait for the questions.
And then we will adjourn. Oscar has last question, last word for our investors.
We can't hear you.
Okay, so I'm here, sorry. Of course I do. So thank you very much for your presentations. I'm Oscar, CEO and co-founder of Uptime Analytics. We're at CleanTech, and our main customers are corporates working in Argentina. We're working in Colombia, Argentina, Guatemala, and Dominican Republic. Right now, we're raising our seed round, and we have many of these corporates that are customers interested in this round. But I really want your opinion or experience in participating in rounds where you have CVCs and VCs. What are the risks that you see, like when partnering with CVCs? Because I know there should be a couple of them, and what you can advise of that. Thank you.
That's wonderful if you have CVCs, because the way I look at CVCs are potential exits into the future. So as long as we are aligned in terms of the valuation and the future, and that there is no side letters, that they will have sweet deals for commercialization and so forth, if we are all investors, but they have a strategic view on your company because they see a potential to fit in their portfolio of products, I think it's wonderful, and I would encourage. In fact, one of the things that I said in the prior session is I talk about elephant and ants. I mean, clearly, elephant, the corporate need to know how to dance with these small startups, but I think it has to be managed very delicately, but it's a tremendous upside in doing so.
Yeah, I'll complement to that. Just read the small letter and make sure who you're getting in bed with, because they can kill you as well. And also they can limit your growth, because in some cases when you have corporate VC, some other clients will not take you because you are invested by a corporate as well.
As we say in Spanish, this is the colorín colorado moment. So I think that's it for us. Just one last round of applause for all of our investors. Thank you so much for your time.
¿Es la de sol?
And I think this concludes our day 2. So see you at the casino. Thanks, everybody.
Gracias.